Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod. We have my friend Matt Bellmann with us today for round three. Matt is CEO at Passion.io. It's a member of EO nowadays, CEO and founder at Warp Internet as well. And yeah, has a little Harvard badge now on his LinkedIn and is in Costa Rica. That's what's different since the last time we spoke. Amazing guy, serial entrepreneur, very ambitious. We were talking about buying planes, to talk about a bunch of different planes. Both of us want to get their license and who knows, get flown by a pilot someday. This podcast is brought to you by podfire.com. If you want to start a podcast, monetize it, you can go to podfire.com. We have a free ebook and a masterclass teaching you how to monetize with lead gen, AdSense, and getting sponsors to pay you for your pod. So podfire.com. Matt, welcome to the pod again. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Charles, excited to be here. Right now in Costa Rica, which is different than the German winter. So it's of course like very warm here, and the idea is to find a second home for the cold months in Europe.
Yeah, and different than the Canadian winter as well. That was the main reason why I got down here in Mexico. Lack of vitamin D from the sun and in Canada, and yeah, I like the cold, right? But I have a cold plunge for that. Yeah, I don't want cold to be imposed on myself without me agreeing to it. So, how's your life in Costa Rica, and how did your day-to-day routine change since you've been there? Oh, are you frozen? Are you back?
Yeah.
Costa Rican connection, I guess. Um, let's see here. Maybe if we turn our cam off. Maybe try quitting and returning, Matt, because yeah. Test 1, 2, Matt. Okay, so Matt is gonna come back in a second. Since we're live, I'm just gonna talk about some stuff that me and Matt talked about, which is basically life freedom and having dreams, having goals, having ambitions, right? For ourselves and our family. So yeah, Matt traveled in Costa Rica, which is definitely a top five region in the world nowadays, and I like this guy because he has some ambition and he's about scale. He's about not only improving himself but his family on a daily basis. So it's always nice to have little projects, right, or big projects and ambition and flying is a good one. For example, getting your pilot license and having an eagle's eyes view. It's a form of meditation. Just like myself, my form of meditation nowadays is motocross. So just taking my dirt bike and going anywhere that I want. It's so amazing to be able to do that. And how does one get to these goals, right? Well, most of the time it's by being an entrepreneur. There's very few other paths that allow you to say, okay, this year I want to make at least 1 million. Then how do I do that, right? And you start reverse engineering with your system. It's impossible, quite literally, to do that with a job. I mean, if you're lucky, if you're in the right job and they give you the right commission, and if you're in the right market, but that's like a one in a million odds, right? Yes, if you have your business and you're a hard worker and you're a serial experimenter and you have you have some momentum behind you, whether that's time, energy, or money, then that means that you can definitely strive for tough goals like that, like buying a plane that costs anywhere from 400K to 1 million to buying your dream house, for example. So Matt is back here. Since we're live, I was like filling in to not bore the audience. How's your Costa Rican connection, Matt?
Every 12 hours it goes down, and we timed it perfectly.
So, okay, how has your routine changed since you're in Costa Rica?
Um, okay, so here's the cool thing. I get up every morning at 4, and
Wow.
that's earlier than I normally get up. And so once the family wakes up at 8, I already have like 4 hours done.
Yeah, I love that hack because yeah, and that's like that comes from someone that has a family, right? Like people that are single won't really understand that, but yeah, once you have a family and other people dependent on you, it's quite important to get solo time and quiet time. Plus, you get to witness the sunset, right? The sunrise. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're like, the sun goes up at 6 something, right? And start working in the dark for a couple of hours, and then yeah, I realize it gets brighter now. And then I do once it gets brighter, like this morning, I went then down to the pool and I do some body weight workout, and then some yoga,
Yeah.
and then I went back to work.
Yeah, and Costa Rica, just remembering my time there, like we went beachside, right? Heredia is in the mountains, and yeah, I think my two favorite environments is either like being in the mountain or beachside, right? Because in the mountain you have an epic view over pretty much everything. We had a swimming pool there, we had a sauna, so yeah, it's so special, right? Because you're in the jungle, there's all these noises, there's these monkeys, these special birds, and also the air quality is quite good because there's so much forest out there. So why did you specifically pick Costa Rica yourself?
It's a good question. Honest straight answer was I was at a manifestation soul spiritual event on Ibiza a month ago, and we had like Kundalini awakening, like body cramping, shaking experience, and I had like this epiphany that Costa Rica is a thing.
Yeah.
So I told that to my neighbor, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've been there. I lived there for like 5 years. Nozara, it's amazing. You should speak to her over there." Then I went to her, and she's like, "Yeah, Nozara." And it's like I spoke to 4 people, they all said Nozara. So like, okay, it's going to be Nozara. So post Christmas, jumped on the plane, and then here we are.
And how are the kids reacting to this?
Horrible, horrible. Jet lag like crazy the first 7 days, then stomach bug. So puking, diarrhea, the whole spiel. Yeah, it was very hard to actually keep the mood up in the family. But today is the first day where we found daycare. So brought them this morning. They're right now there. It's like Waldorf, play in nature, bake cake, and plant fruits kind of thing. Very different to how the education system works in Germany, but they hang out there with kids from all different nations. So let's see. Sounds great.
Yeah, it's called Montessori, right? Like I have one of these school near us here. It's like very much like playing with stuff with your hands, which I think is amazing for kids. And yeah, just so you, because I have another question related to that. When I arrived with my wife in Costa Rica, actually was the first week in which we would travel together, right? I met her in Mexico. We spent some time at the beach together, and then we started traveling the world. And Costa Rica was the first place we did together, and both of us got stomach sick as well. So there's something with the food in Costa Rica, the beautiful veggies and all that. I think there's just like more life right there. There's more like bacterial activity, and it's like a way different micro biome than in Canada or in Germany, right? Which is cold, it's sterile, right? So their little stomach will get used to it. Related to the education stuff, maybe you've seen that in my profile. Like I love to see your reactions every time that I launch some shit up, because I'm a serial experimenter. Some people call it lack of focus. I call it experimenting. I'm still very bullish on my thesis of it all, but I launched a school for kids called couni.com. And yeah, we're going to make kids from 7 years old and up, founders and CEOs, for 50 to 100K tuition per year. I'm really bullish on it because I want my own kids to follow it part time, not like full time, right? Like I still want them to send them to probably some normal school, some Montessori school, and also my school, which is fully online. What do you think of the concept of teaching kids how to start their own business from an early age, as young as 7 years old, online on Zoom, and possibly having 10 CEOs and founders teach them, 10 different founders and CEOs teach them on a weekly basis. What do you think about that idea? Do you think it would be a success or a failure?
It depends on the details, I guess, but sounds amazing. I think the education system is very easy to do things better than what the public education system is doing. So there's definitely a big opportunity. I'm already scared. In 3 years, my little one will, or 2 years maybe even, will go to school, and there is an obligation to go to school in the country, right? Like you cannot escape the system. You have to
In
do.
Germany, or
Yeah, exactly. You
but
cannot.
don't you have another citizenship? And if you move them to Costa Rica, I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah, there's some loopholes, but 99.999% of the population or of the citizens are not doing that, right? Like they are in the system. And I mean, some crazy shit is happening. For example, around the vacation times, and back then when I was going to school, we usually like stretch a little bit, like went a week earlier or came back a week later. Right now, if you like come back one day later or earlier, they actually have police control, like border control on the airport, and they they fine you up to 5K for stretching the obligation to go to school because you want to be on, I don't know, a different flight or whatever. So like I don't want to be in that system. I think there are much better education systems already out there. I started for that reason also to speak English to my kids from the day of birth, which is also, I mean, sounds maybe normal to you, but like in our little town in Germany where everyone is German, that's like weird. But I want to expose them to different cultures and also different education systems, so that, for example, let's take one school that I think is interesting is in Austin called Alpha School, where they do AI-based education
Oh, like
based
that.
on subjects in the morning for like 2-3 hours. So, for example, if you have, let's say, a first grader, second grader, she can be already in class 5, 6, or 7 on math, maybe, right? Because she makes her own pace there. And then by subject, she can just like go as fast as he or she wants, right? And then the rest of the day they do entrepreneurial shit like live stuff and all of that. So for example, they would like really like 7, 8 year olds would get an Airbnb, do a rent-to-rent model, or they would maybe buy a house, make an Airbnb, furnish the whole thing, do pricing optimization, and start making profit. So they become entrepreneurs from the get-go, and that's like baked in. Like that's ridiculous. Like that would not exist in Germany, maybe in a decade or so, if at all. So I think by not putting my kids under risk or giving them huge disadvantages, I need to find loopholes and also have to speak English with them from the get-go before the school does that, because not working.
It's funny, the Airbnb stuff, right? Like for me, I was like, fuck Airbnb, fuck real estate investment. I have my digital properties, it's printing money, right? It's money minting ventures. But then it's like, oh, I'm gonna buy properties for my ego, and then I'm gonna have my wife manage them. And then I'm probably gonna have my kids manage them, which is a good way to teach about business, I guess. But isn't that like not doing them a favor and not teaching them how to do the art shit? Because I feel like with my set of tools and the way that I'm built, I have humongous grit, right? And I'll be on 2 moonshots this year, like AI longevity and stuff. But most people, it's so hard for them to develop that type of grit. So should we throw our loved ones in the hellfires of entrepreneurship, or should we give them like a midway easier type of opportunity there?
It's a good question. It's also a very complex question. A couple of thoughts on this. One is they have to walk their own path. They like no pain, no gain ultimately. And if you help them with everything, then they will never become confident. But then second, you're also a really good role model, and they look at what we are doing and activities. If you like look at the screen all the time and don't do shit, or just like watch TV, then they will become the same. It's also like dangerous. So I think I saw this like one study where they looked at all the super successful people, like the billionaires, gazillionaires, trillionaires, whoever, like the rulers of this world, if there was anything in common. And something that popped up over and over again was that from a very, very, very early age, they did something entrepreneurial. And that could be something super simple, like, for example, lemonade stand.
Yeah.
or selling flowers at the street, or I don't know what, like buying, selling newspaper, whatever that was,
Art.
right? And art, yeah. And I think, I plan to do some woodworking with them, and then maybe like build a lemonade stand and then like sell some stuff on the side. Go to a fair or yard sale or anything, like all of these little things. I would like to expose them to that, but then also like walk them their own path.
Yeah, and well, two things. First, I'm not sure about you if you started like in the physical realm, but for me, like almost day one, it's been like online, and my first like market experience physically, quote unquote, was me having 8 dogs from the dogs we adopted, and it wasn't a money producing venture, but we still had to sell these adopted these new dogs, right? Because in Mexico there's an abundance of dogs, the market doesn't want some of them. So we showed up, me and my wife, in the centro here, and we were just sitting there trying to have people interested in the dogs and filtering them and so forth. And that in itself was a quite a funny experience for me, like for my ego, like it was good, and also like to get to know physically people. That's the first thing. Then second, I think us as entrepreneurs, like more than the limited stands, like we're hackers, right? So we can find needs, and if we can help our kids identify the right opportunities, like hey, if it's raining, go sell these fucking, how do you call them, the thing to protect you from the rain.
Umbrella.
uh yeah, umbrella, thanks for that. If it's raining, go in the center and go sell some umbrellas, right? That's a little hack there, and I think they can learn physically, and I think that could have a better effect on them ultimately as entrepreneurs, to physically understand the needs of the market, or just bring them in a market, right, where they're selling vegetables and fruit, and go interview the fruit sellers and make a little documentary about it, right? Hey, how much are you making on a daily basis? Hey, what's your margin on that lemon here? And make them curious. And last thing that I'll say here, and obviously I'm biased, but start a podcast, right? What do you think about these ideas?
Yes, I completely agree. Yeah, yeah, make them curious about these things. But it's hard. I can tell you, it's really hard. It's hard because when you're in the trenches with both hands full and food and I don't know, like this morning, what was missing? I think I put like a little bit of water on her porridge because it was too hot, and all of a sudden, like, don't eat it anymore. I hate water. Of course, I don't want it anymore. Which then,
Yeah,
like, it's like that. That's the reality.
yeah,
It's
yeah. No, it's hard. It's gonna be a challenge for me, like yes, we have we're currently conceiving, right, in the process with kids. It's taking a bit longer than expected, right? Like it's more complex than one thought to have to conceive kids. A topic for another day. I had the fertility coach on the pod like earlier this week. But yeah, we had 6 dogs, and in my mind, it's like 6 dogs is probably equivalent to like 1 or 2 kids. But yeah, yesterday we donated one, and it was a terrible moment, because yeah, it's like you bring someone in the family, you develop some links and relationships with them, and then you give it to a caring person, right? But it's still that it's like a part of you missing. But yeah, kids, especially when they're traveling, and I think it's all about biochemistry, right? Like if their gut is fucked up, then they're gonna be totally fucked up. And being kids, they don't have any filters, right? So it's just like you get how they feel. They don't have a layer of moderation. They don't really know about meditation and how to push on in like tough states. But the thing on the back end of that, just like as usual, they're gonna adapt, and then you're gonna start feeling like the wonders of the risk that you have taken, and the rewards and the benefits from that decision.
yeah, it's the most intense thing ever. Like if you think like Goggins and like doing ultraton and whatever, like it's like that's hardcore. Then like welcome to the world of kids. Like that's another level.
I believe you. I believe you. And yeah, that's people. They're like, hey, you're an Iron Man. You're all of that. But I'm like, most normal humans, right? Like that have kids. That is way harder than an Iron Man. Think of a Mexican mom that is immigrating to the U.S. and is barely surviving on, I don't know, like $50 a day, right? And trying to make it for her 2 or 3 children's, the stress management and all that. But yeah, today you brought them to the school, right? The second level would be to have someone to actually help you with them, like at the house, right? To cook food, to take care of the children's. So have you started thinking about these modalities?
Actually, I did it the other way around. I first had someone at the house to help, but I want to expose them to different cultures in a way where they play with other kids. You know, they speak also English more because they know that I speak also German. So what happens is I talk English with them, and then they reply in German. I'm like, talk in my language, but they're like replying in German. But now with the kindergarten, daycare, school, whatever you want to call it, they have to talk likely English, right? And the practitioners, they can only speak Spanish. So let's see.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we need these folks that are 100% dedicated to them, right? Like, you can't give them like 90% of your attention because you're busy on making money as a provider and scaling your entrepreneurship stuff, right? So you really need people to fully dedicate their attention to these little minds that are constantly thriving. And I think kids, they really fuel on attention, right? They really fuel on the energy that you invest into them. Are they into sport? Well, I mean, they're like 3 years old, right? So how do you get to pull their batteries down? Any routines for that?
So like what both are doing is where every time they see me doing yoga, they're like, "Ah, how do you, Daddy's doing this thing again, right?" And then at some point they start to copy some of the poses. So they just copy what you are doing essentially. But if you tell them do this and that and go for a run and like run around the pool or whatever, that's hard. But if you are if they are in a shitty mood as well, and you then get pissed because you think like, hey, this is amazing here, good weather, pool, everything, then they again copy that, and it's a fucking death spiral. It goes like down, right? Because they have shitty mood, you get a shitty mood, they get even a shittier mood, and then in the end it's like it's just pure war. It's crazy. So mentally you have to be very aware of like whatever's going on. Um, and the same for psychologically, physiologically, psychologically, the whole thing. I don't know. I just it's the ultimate nemesis to like master that.
Yeah, I think ultimately it starts from the gut, right? So absolutely need to fix that because however the gut feels, if it feels bad, it's super hard to even focus on your breathing, right? Like the gut is such an organ that takes control over your full body, right? So if it feels like shit, that needs to be fixed in some way, teas and soups and all of that. Are you doing some breathing nowadays?
Oh, I think the last time I'd done some intense breathing was at this manifestation soul spiritual event. That was really, really good. That made me like think to add this again into my routine. But right now, not really. You know where I did it the last time actually was after the event, January 1st. I always go, and then I was still at home back then, and I always go dipping, what's it called, like swimming on January 1st, like first thing in the morning, like 8 a.m. On New Year's. And like it was snowy everywhere, right? And icy. And there, of course, you need a good breath in order to
Right. Yeah, you need some breathing. That's another thing. Do you bring them to the beach on a daily basis?
I would say on every other day. That's what we're doing right now. And you know what's also interesting with the kids? I thought like, you know, like right now we are entrepreneurs, right? We have like high standards. We want them to like instantly surf or whatever, right? But they can barely walk. It's so interesting to do these baby steps to, you know, like this, you know, this, you likely have seen this graph where you have negative stress and positive stress, right? And let's say if they're too stressed, too overwhelmed, then it goes complete shit and the whole day is fucked and like nothing happens. If it's too easy, they're also bored. But there's like this really fine line where anxiety and excitement
Eustress, it's called, yeah.
is right on the edge. And like with the little ones, it's so obvious. Like you look at them, you're like, are they crying? Are they laughing? Are they scared? Are they excited? Like you're right, like right on that balance. and that's good. And then they're like getting used to it, and then every 5-10 minutes you can do a little bit more, a little bit deeper, a little bit more, a little bit more action, bigger wave. Let's lose the bodyboard. Let's see if like can ride a wave a little bit. Yeah, and then the wave gets over their head, and they're like again scared. But it's like it's almost like it felt like onboarding a team member. You don't want to overwhelm them, but you also don't want to like just like chill. Like this fucking eustress thing. This is so obvious, and this is true for everyone. For
But
adults,
maybe the water is too much for them because I almost drowned like twice in Costa Rica, like just like being on the sand with a balloon and a ball and a bowl of sand, a ball and a shovel, like just bringing them on the beach and the grounding of the sand will bring them like some calmness, and then they can run on the beach unlimited without hurting themselves, quote unquote. Um, and then get dance parties, like put their favorite music and dance with them for like 20 minutes and play. At least that's what I mean, dogs are not the same with as humans, but I definitely play with my dogs on a daily basis and bring them pretty much everywhere I go nowadays. But yeah, I think I've heard of one entrepreneur told me one time that he would bring his kids everywhere with him. I think there needs some kind of boundaries at some point, right? Sometimes have the nana take care of them and just have a breeder, right? Like we had our fifth dog was quite problematic. She would destroy the house, and she's like scared of fireworks. And even with that, we need to leave her alone in the house and not let her, like dictate the boundaries. Like we're still gonna have her freedom. So, but yeah, kids, man, hell of a challenge, right?
right? What's your plan with kids?
One or two nanas, that's for sure. One for sure, two probably. Um,
How many kids?
three, but we're probably yeah. Like I go for moonshots all the time. At first, it was like seven, right? That's completely insane. And then I talk to fellow entrepreneurs. I talk with my brother that has a kid. The thing is, like my genes, it's very much like ADHD and high energy. My wife is also on that spectrum, sort of like it's like high stress. So the kid will be a fucking tornado. Um, and then if we have two of those, it'll be quite amazing. But my plan for the CEOuni.com that I told you about is sort of like my main plan to handle it all. So, but yeah, that will be way much easier said than done. I think just to get some kind of break, right? Like I'll send them to the Montessori school, like you did, and attend my stuff after that. Then I think like the physical activity part is super important. So I don't have a plan yet. I asked ChatGPT for ideas of like how to spend their batteries. But yeah, they need to run. I mean, you can't have them lift weight at like three, right? But I don't know, like maybe a little playground in which they can jump, in which they can have fun forever. Probably take them away from screens because they'll become like porn addicts at like 12 with the trends of TikTok and all of that, which is completely fucked. What's your philosophy on that? The screen and the technology?
Yeah. I was like torn in the beginning. I thought, they can also get really good educational content through the screens and learn, let's say, English from a native speaker, right? I'm German, and maybe learn concept of numbers and letters and all of these things. And sometimes they're watching that, but especially my daughter, she gets very addicted to these things. Like if you take the device away after she watched something, she completely freaks out. It's like
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. So I don't know. I think like my gut feeling with her is no device, no screen. Maybe TV, because like there's a difference. TV is fixed in the house. It's like it has a stationary location. The
Yeah.
phone is always with you, so she always knows that there's a phone and she can always look at the screen. We're like flying here to Nosara in like this Cessna small plane straight behind the pilot, super exciting through clouds. And she's like, "Hey, can I watch something on the screen?" It's like, what the fuck? Like this is like the most exciting shit ever. Of 100% not, right? And I think there's a difference between phone and TV actually. And yeah, my boy, like my son, he doesn't care. He's just like whatever there's a screen, just like walks by. He's not interested. So it's interesting. So it depends a bit on the kid. You have to curate, be smart about it, but yeah, less is better. So it's my feeling now. Before kids, I thought like there's it's really good opportunity to learn and make them grow as well. But I'm less convinced now.
Can they do sports like sports team at this age, like playing football, soccer?
I
Or
can
is
play
it too
football
early?
a little bit. They really love to dance and sing. So what you said with the dogs is a smart idea. They love like dancing and singing. I think anything that puts them in a good mood, like if they have a good time and we have a good time, it's the best thing ever. You have never had so much fun and love in your whole life. It's crazy. Like once that happens. But then there's also the flip sides, right? Where it's the opposite. So it's like if you think entrepreneurship is a roller coaster, then watch this. Like that's a whole
But
different.
isn't that our human nature, right? Like, I mean, you and I, we hacked our brain in some very specific way, and I think we most of the time like make it look easy, but it was hard to get in that brain state, right? Lots of meditation, lots of sports, lots of grit for entrepreneurship. I think like most humans, at default, they're very bipolar. It's like the nature of things. One needs to run with the other. That's their natural state, right? Like kids are quite capricious beings.
Fuck yeah. I can just like tell you that my standard on like what's easy and convenient and what we should do and so on. For example, right when we came here, jet lag, travel bug, or stomach bug, everyone in a bad mood. And I'm a little bit like, yeah, but we're in Costa Rica. We're like doing this cool global thing, and we're like our immune system is growing, it's leveling up, right? And we're getting more resistant, and it's a good thing. So I'm like a little bit raving about it, but essentially the whole family is fucking crying and wants to go home. Having empathy with that, and like this whole meditation, personal growth, and like all that like seminars and everything that I have done, I have to also sometimes realize that the kids for sure, and also my wife is not on that wave,
Yes.
and that just like that is needs me to this makes me grow again.
Yes. Because the meditation seminars, I mean, most of it also is pretty bullshit. If you think about it, it's like rah rah stuff, right? It's concepts. The world should be that way, right? You should just be in an ashram and meditate silently for the rest of your fucking life. But that is not life. Life is about adding value, getting out there, giving back, right? And um, most humans beings are not fucking gurus and they're not saints, you know. um, and us entrepreneurs, we get caught quickly into that. We're at the best of our shape, the best of our form. My wife's the same. That's also part of why we sort of stopped traveling. She wasn't into it anymore. I wasn't into it either. But it's a strong reason also why I'm here in Oaxaca, with her family and all of that, so that she can feel safer. So I think us men, we also have like a different energy as leaders, right? And we've put ourselves through like so many uncomfortable zone. And then also we're quite selfish as well. I think it's like, hey, I had this vision. Let's bring the full family with my vision, right?
Yeah.
I did that multiple times, and I'm still very selfish nowadays. Everything considered equal, so yeah, it's a tough play, but yes, it's. I think there's one thing is like, okay, I'm gonna make this retreat happen. I'm gonna take notes. I'm gonna implement on some of these insights that I had, and then there's the real world, which is total fucking chaos, right? If you think about it, like a retreat is like this controlled environment. It's so simple. It is made for you to have insights and to feel good about yourself and feel this peace. But what's not working about retreats is the integration part. I think people have good times in retreats, 90% of us, but when it comes to implementing these things in the real world, we fail. I remember coming off the back of my 10-day silent retreat, and inviting my wife's full family to stay with us in an Airbnb. So imagine like going from having my space, the silence, and being with a family of 10 Mexicans, which talk
Yeah.
a lot, and it's total chaos. So worst integration ever. So yeah, I think but it's adaptation. You're gonna get adapted to it. 2 weeks from now, it's gonna be a different reality, and that's the amazing thing with us human minds.
What's also interesting is that in the end, I think something, at least for me, but I guess also for everyone, like clicks, and you adapt it to your own world to some extent. So when I did like a 10-day silent meditation, like you were like meditating morning to evening, more or less, vipassana, like you did the same, or I don't know. And I had the same issue. Like I was still meditating, but then a year after that, I could have done another 10-day breather, and then like another one, and so on. But at some point, it faded out. And what I realize now is that even though you think like it's gone, it's not completely gone, because, for example, even now on this call and also earlier with the kids, I realized that sometimes when I really want to focus and like be here and aware, that I breathe, I do deep breaths.
Yeah.
Inhale, deep exhale, and I focus on that. And all of a sudden, I realize I'm here. I can focus, and it's almost like a pattern and anchor. So, like being aware of the breath and knowing what the power is and what it does, and adapting that to, like the craze of the situation where right now I cannot close my eyes and sit in a dark spot for like 5 hours to like get some epiphany, but I can do a deep breath, and it unlocks something, or it maybe triggers something that is deeply safe from back in the days that calms me down. I think that's pretty valuable. But it's my own integration in that sense of that thing back in the past. But I like, for me, it's helpful. But yes, like the expectation that I like do that thing as in a 10-day silent retreat, and what they tell you there to like meditate every morning for 2 hours or whatever, like ridiculous, not happening.
Yeah, the challenges that life is throwing at you, you're just gonna get the growth on the other side. It's always like that. And I think it's about space time, right? So that the amount of stressors and the amount of time. And to me, yeah, 10 days silent retreat is very uncomfortable, right? So let's say that you invest 10 days of your time into that. I'd expect, I don't know, the benefits to very much 80% of the benefits to trickle down the next 10 months, right? Um, the 100K that I ran like 3 months ago or 4 months ago, I am still on the back end benefits of that right now. It's crazy. Like my business is going super well. I'm at a good place mentally. But fuck, man, it was so hard. That not just the day that I did, but like I got sick after that. I had some panic attacks come out of random places. And just right now, I'm starting to understand why I had these panic attacks. I would wake up at the middle of the night and I'd be like, fuck, this is the end of the world. And I didn't know why, right? It's like my serotonin systems being a little bit fucked. And I think the psychological reaction is because I was stuck on a plane, barely able to breathe, coughing, everyone looking at me like 4 times. Then I threw myself in cold weather after that. So my body didn't feel safe, right? But on the back end of all that pain, because yeah, I guess it was self-imposed. Now I have humongous growth, and I got sick for a month and a half. I mean, that's freakish, right? 1 month and a half coughing.
Yeah, I recall it.
So
Like we were last podcast we did, you were straight, like it was the week after that whole thing, and you were still like,
yeah, it was scary. I mean, it's like, hey, am I this biohacker, a healthy guy that's capable of surmounting anything? No, I'm probably not. It's like an ego shot as well. It's like an identity shot, right? Like which could justify the panic, but on the back end of that is humongous growth. So the question is like, yeah, for how much time are we able to withstand that pain, right? Sometime life it will throw us events that will take a month and a half. Sometimes people affected by cancer will be like 5, 10 fucking years of pain. Um, and that's the beauty and the scary part of life, I guess.
what's your biggest takeaway from the 100K?
The direct event, I guess it's my leadership and my heart. Like sometimes I may sound like this contrarian and a bad person, right? And I'm quite sharp around the edges, in my opinion. But yeah, I accompanied my partner to the finish line. He hurt himself in the calf, and we instead of doing 16 hours, we ended up doing 25 hours. for that race. So the patience there, and we accompanied another guy that was sort of hurt at the end of the race, right? And I think that's also justifying my panic attack, was managing these two human beings in the middle of a jungle, not knowing if one is gonna fall down from a heart attack because he was like low pressure, this other guy, or if my partner would stop. And in the middle of the jungle, if you stop, you have like ants trying to eat you, mosquitoes trying to eat you, uh, maybe a panther if we're not lucky. Um, so I think that was my main takeaway from that. Yeah. Would you do one of these? Maybe not 100K, but like 50 or.
Yeah, sure. Like it was is definitely something which I think I had it on the list for some time, and then I took it off. But I was like back in the days in triathlon, right? And then the idea was like to do an Ironman. But especially now, like with the kids, like there's so much effort I think that goes into that, and still like something like I love like the pain, I love the like just give me something really hard, right? Like, I'm almost like biased towards the shitty, like the painful thing. But I would say I took it off, and it also took some option off the table for the time, and like freed up some brains, like some headspace. And for now, I don't have it on my list. But
Well, take one in Costa Rica, right? Take one in Costa Rica, so that all you have to do is you can go out one night and come back the next day or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what happened to me? I was like on. Do you count in pounds or you count in kilos?
Both. Yeah, I understand both, but
I was
pounds.
I was I was 87 kilos, like half a year ago, right? I know what
Love muscle or fat?
muscle would be 70 something according to my scale. So like 10, 13, 12, 13% body fat back then.
Okay.
Now it's still like 8%, something like that.
Yeah.
But here's what happened, right? So it's like, okay, I want to like cut out sugar completely, cut out alcohol completely, caffeine completely, everything out, right? Because I wanted to get to ripped 90, right? Like a little bit more, but fucking ripped, like below 10% body fat. What happened is that I didn't have the calorie intake anymore. I came in a deficit, which of course made me more ripped, but I lost weight like crazy. So I went down to 80, and now like with the fucking stomach bug and all of that stuff, I'm likely in the 70s right now. So I lost like 10 kilos, and I'm like so far off from a 90-kilo goal. And you know, like extra protein, extra meal, but then with the family, it's so hard. So like even hitting simple goals like that, it's right now, like for me, I'm just like struggling, and I don't notice about myself because I'm not by myself anymore. I'm like in a family. And for that reason, you know, like just like going quickly casually for 50K here, I won't do that, not right now.
Right. Yeah. I understand. I mean, maybe you're just in a phase in which you need to give it some time, right? Or in that phase, you can still have fun and micro hack some goals. I mean, nothing is stopping you from going and running at 15K on the beach, right? Or designing your own little triathlon on Strava, or hiring an online coach to follow you on these goals, like I have. I always had some coach, but I was always like a bit arrogant when it came to like anything that had to do with my health. So I was like, yeah, I don't need a fucking coach. But yeah, it's great. And yeah, just these YouTube workouts, right? The 30 minutes hit, if you have some weights and so forth. But yeah, scaling weight is really hard. I'm doing it right now. My start was incredible. I went from 150 pounds to 170 in like 2 to 3 weeks. But I guess that is my normal weight, the 170. It's so yeah, now it's like trying to scale with muscle and invest time into that. So yeah, I think definitely more breath work, also like Wim Hof style. And if you're by a beach, you should be there on a daily basis. Like just put yourself in the sand and start Wim Hof breathing. That would help. But yeah, maybe a smaller marathon near you, like to take the nearest town and do a 10K. There's also events that have these with the kids, right? Like Spartans. Spartans, I know they have a Spartan Kids that is like 1 kilometer, so that's quite fun. But Yeah, it's challenging, and I think like in 2 weeks that you're gonna be a different Matt. I think the adaptation's gonna start.
Yeah, good. That could be. Like arriving here, we first had to put the systems in place. Now with the daycare and getting accustomed to this thing. Like 36 hours ago, I did an all-nighter on the toilet. Essentially, didn't even sleep. Like I'm so far away from doing sunrise 15K on the beach. You can imagine that. But yeah, I'm doing my morning routine all the time with like body weight and so on, and I will take it one level up for sure.
Dude, where can people find out more about you?
LinkedIn, Matt Bellmann, Instagram, Passion Matt. Otherwise, check out passion.io.